Hey everyone, welcome to video 3 of the midterm review. This is our foundations class and we are using this final project midterm review to just go over the basics of HTML and CSS and the whole workflow cycle as well. So we downloaded starter code, we took content from Gen Cyber Academy on cybersecurity concepts, and we're making a one-page static website about or with that content at its base. And we are going to have headers, images, paragraphs, ordered, unordered lists, footers, and then add CSS styling to it. So again, just a review of the bare bones basics that we have touched on in previous projects. And then finally pushing that back up to our remote GitHub repository and finally publishing it. So where we left off in the previous video was we added a media query to get the big screen to look just like this. So we have our header at the top, Cybersecurity Concepts 1, and then we have basically a blog post, if you will. It's not quite a blog post, but similar to. So the content appears in rectangles. First one is defense in depth with an image, paragraph, and then here's our ordered list, 1, 2, and 3. Second two, confidentiality and integrity. Both images, paragraphs, and then unordered list. And again, I'm just doing ordered versus unordered list to demonstrate the difference between the two, not particularly an impact with the content. All right, so what we did when we last met was we took a media query, and each one of these boxes, if you will, took up 100% of the screen. That's what we wanted in mobile, and it worked fine. But to change that up, we employed Flexbox in our CSS, and just with a few lines of code, allowed that to go display flex, which defaults to a row or horizontal display, and then wrap the boxes as they run out of room across the horizon, if you will, across the screen. Justify content space around, so evenly have the space around each. And finally, the post was the actual box itself, and we took the width from 100 down to 25, increased the font for the bigger screen so that we could get that effect of all three appearing on one screen. So that's where we left off. So now we want to address the footer. We have content here that have images from Pixabay, and we want to give credit to the content from Gen Cyber Academy and also for the images for the photographers from Pixabay. So let's head on back to index.html and go all the way down. Remember, this was the section gallery. We wrapped all three posts in there, so I'm going to delete the space between there. One thing I want to change before we go any further, head back up to that H1. Let's take out the Roman numeral 1 in cybersecurity concepts. Okay, and then we want to move the cursor all the way down to the section. So let's do what we've done in the past. Click on the open tag for section, and you will notice that the close is all the way down here. That open rectangle now includes the three children of the posts 1, 2, and 3. So the footer we want outside of that. So we're going to move our cursor to the end of that section close tag, hit enter twice, and begin with the footer snippet. And now we've got a rectangle open with the semantic tag for footer. And what we want here is, I'm going to start with a div snippet. And inside of that div snippet, we're going to assign a class to it. So we're going to put the attribute inside of the open tag as we've done all along. Class. So property equals and then value in quotes, and let's call this source. All right, so now move the cursor outside of the tag, and then we want the site tag. And remember, the site tag is an HTML tag that simply defines the title of creative work, and we could get that from W3 Schools. So these are things we're just reviewing that we have used. After the site tag, I want to use a paragraph tag here. So this is going to be the makeup of each of these. So let's see, I've got div class source, then a blank site, and a blank paragraph tag. So let me think about this here. I'm just going to grab that, and we've got 3 or 4 different ones here, right? I think 4. So I'm going to grab that and put it in the clipboard, Control C, hit enter, paste, enter, paste, enter, and paste. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and our first source. First site is we want to cite the content in general, content by, and inside of the paragraph tag we want to reference an anchor tag. So start with the open anchor and close anchor, and inside of the open anchor we want the H reference, the hypertext reference, equals, and now the property value, and this is going to be the website, https semicolon 2 forward slashes, and it is www.gen-cyber.com, and I believe that should be it, with a forward slash there. And let's move in between. So that now is going to allow us, when we do select this link, remember an A tag is an anchor tag, it is a link, and the hypertext reference will be where we send our users. And then the content in between the A tag, we want to just simply put Gen Cyber Academy. Let me make sure I spelt that right. Okay, so remember, the users will see the Gen Cyber Academy name, and then the website is where they would be taken to. Okay, so next up, we want to bring in the following source, and this source is going to be for the image. And this is going to be the mobile phone. And we want to head on over to our cybersecurity markdown file, which is here. No, I apologize. We do not want that one. We want the sources. So let's go into assets. Take a look at assets and open up the sources markdown file. There we go. Okay, and let's slide that over. And now for the mobile phone, we want to just grab all of this image by. Come on back to our index.html and place that inside the p tag. Okay, so again, when pasting, I go to edit, code formatting, and just get that a little bit of adjustment there. And we're going to stop here because now we have 2 sources, and let's see about the styling of this now. And okay, for styling, we want to open up our style.css file. Let me make sure before I leave index, I save that. And let's head on down to, so I want to add the footer in here. I'm going to move it right after header. So well above the media query. Again, we want that last. We've got body, header, and then let's move footer right after this. And remember, this is not a class. This is just an HTML element. So we just need to reference the element. And now we need to address the CSS properties and values. So let's start immediately with background color. And we're going to pull in our primary color up top here. Let's see. Control V, and we need a semicolon at the end of that. So we have Element is footer, property CSS property value, property is background color, value is the FFBEB. So that's pretty close to white. We've used that in the past for the post background as well, so we're going to match that. Let's add some padding. Well, before I do that, let's actually call this up on the screen. So I'm going to save where I'm at, head on over to index, move my cursor in here and hit preview. And I want to just focus one more time back to the mobile, even though we addressed the media query on the prior video. Take a quick look. We've got defense, confidentiality, integrity, and now we've got the footer taking shape down below here. So we want some consistency. So we're going to go to our style, and we want a margin. And you could probably guess now what that number is. 1.2 rem to match the title and the post up above. So let's save that, and now footer now should match there. And we want to add some spacing inside of the rectangle, and that is what padding does. So again, we're just using the box model, and we're going to use 1.5 rem here. Let's take a look and see the impact, and notice now the content moves a little more inside of the box. We have some separation. Okay, we want to shrink down that font size because this is not the main text. So let's go to 0.55 rem. And let's save, refresh, and notice now we've got the content a little smaller. Okay. Okay, if you take a look at the bottom of the screen here, in the footer, things look a little bit on top of each other. We're going to try and let's go over to our index, scroll down to our footer section here, and we're going to deploy a break tag. And if you take a look at the HTML break tag reference on W3 Schools, it is a tag that inserts a line break. It's useful for writing addresses or poems. It just creates an empty tag. There's no, or it is an empty tag. There's no end tag. So let's use that here, and we are going to put a break. Let's see. After each div. So there's our first source. Hit enter, and we want the break snippet. We have our next source. Hit enter, put the break snippet. And finally, another one here. So unless we add more on down below, we won't put another break yet, but that will be to come. But let's save that and see now if we have a little more separation at the bottom. And as you can see, we do a little bit there. Okay, so next up, what I'd like you to do on your own is pause the video. We're gonna close out of this, and we wanna pull in the other sources. So the site, we're gonna go to sources. The next site will be stamp, and then the image by in the paragraph tag, and then the next site is digitization, and then the paragraph tag. So pause video here, go ahead and put those into your footer, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, and if you take a look on the screen right now, we should have within footer, there is our entire rectangle, and the children of the rectangle are the source div. So that's the first one, that's sourcing the content to Gen Cybersecurity. The second source is the mobile phone image, sourcing back to the photographer, the owner at Pixabay. Third one is the stamp photo, same thing with the source back to Pixabay. And finally, the digitization image. And again, the anchor tags with image by and from, That is auto-generated on Pixabay so that the authors could get credit. So we are going to do just that, and we're putting that in the footer here. All right, so once we have that up to date, let's save that and head on over to preview. Let's take a look at the mobile preview first. Shrink that down to a more appropriate mobile view. There's our header, there's our 3, and finally footer with a little bit of break in between each. And notice the links are there as well. So, okay. If we head on up to our big screen here, notice that that is also just top-down vertical based on mobile, so we want to adjust that using Flexbox as well. So let's go to our styles. Okay, so back at styles, let's see, I want to pull that up on my screen here. At the very bottom, again, above the media query. So I'm going to move my cursor right after the post paragraph reference, hit enter a few times so that that media query, we're not typing inside of that because that's only for larger screens. Right now we want to change a couple of styles first before we hit and address the media query. I want to reference the source class. Remember, that's the div that has everything, and we want open curly brackets here. And since that is a class, we want the dot in front of that. And we want letter spacing. And letter spacing of 0.5 rem. And that should give us a little more separation down below with the lettering here. Let's just take a quick peek at that. And that looks like a little too much. And that's too much because I put rem instead of pixels, so we want just half a pixel here. Let me fix that, and let's actually take a look at 1 pixel and see if that improves. Okay, so that looks a little better with 1 pixel there, so we're going to keep that. And then we want to address the source class and specifically the anchor tag within the source class. And we want text decoration to be none. That's going to move the underline. We want to change that blue type. And we want to bring in one of our colors from the top, and we're going to bring in the secondary color here. Let's see, Control C. Add a semicolon at the end there, and now let's see, that should be letter spacing within the source class, and for all 3 source classes and every anchor within a source class. No text declaration, so the underline's gone and the color we're changing from blue to our color palette selection. And let's take a look and see how that looks. There we go. So now you can see faintly again there is that reference to the links. Okay, next up we want to go into our final piece here is within the media query. So now we want to go inside of that media query. So it's my line 69 to 80. And I want to go inside of the final bracket. So I'm going to move my cursor right after the post, hit enter twice, and we want to address the footer. So this is just an HTML tag. Open curly brackets, and we want to display flex. Let me bring that up a little higher so you can see. Justify content. Space around. We want a line item center. So justify content moves things horizontally. because flex automatically defaults to a horizontal movement. So now all 3 children at the bottom will be left to right rather than vertical. We'll evenly space them with the space around each div, and then align items in the center of the rectangle going vertically. And we want to increase the font size from above. I think it was 0.55. We want to do 0.7 rem here, just to make it a little larger on the bigger screens. I think that is it, so let's save that, refresh. We should be all set down in the bottom here. And let's refresh on the bigger screen. There's our title, the 3 content, and now the references, the posts are going across. So this wraps up the review. This wraps up the code or content, HTML, CSS part of the review. We got one more step to do. So we are going to push everything up to GitHub. So let's review that process right now. Okay, so we're going to go back into our integrated development environment. I want to see my folder structure here, and I'm going to eliminate my preview now. Let's make sure we save in both files here. Control S within styles, Control S within index. Okay. Notice down below I do not have that terminal. So if that is the case, you want to go up to View in our environment, go down and change the layout to vertical split, and then hit that plus button, and we want a new terminal. Within the terminal, we want to type in change directory, and we want to change directory into our project folder. So I typed in C and tab, and it auto-filled. And now the 4 commands. So we want git status. And notice now 2 files come up, index and style, that are red. Our next, we want git add space -a. This is going to move the modified files to a staging area. If we run git status again, you'll see that those files now are staged files and the color is green. So next up, we want to type in git commit space m. So this is a commit message. Space m means the messages to follow. Open quotes simply means complete review portion of midterm. Okay, I'm going to hit enter there. I'm going to clear the screen, and if we hit type in git status again, we execute that command. Now the branch is ahead of the remote, so we want to get those linked up. So we want to run git push origin main. So push is the command, gets the technology. We want to push the original repo and the main branch, and we want to type in our username. And then finally, you want to head over to a personal access token, copy that, and utilize that for your password. And that should be all set. So our final step here, we want to check to make sure that took. So let's come on over to our GitHub repo, refresh the page, and you'll see now that we have complete review portion of midterm. There's our commits, so we're all set. Final piece of this is to publish. So let's go into settings of the repository right here. Scroll down to pages. And we want to deploy from a branch, but we want to tell what branch. We need to select main and save. And just wait momentarily. Let's give this a few minutes. So we're going to stop the video and wait for the published URL to come up. Okay. Welcome back, and take a look. It now says, after a few minutes, it says our site is live at the following URL. So I want to just hover over that, copy link address, and I want to bring it back to the main page. So I'm going to move and highlight over the repository name. And then on this is the main page of the repository. Under About, select the About settings wheel. And we want to go right into website and paste that there and save changes. And we've now successfully published at that website. Do me a favor, take your phones out, type that URL into your phone, into your phone's browser, make sure you could see that in mobile form. And this link now is displayed prominently in your GitHub page right in the front. So this wraps up the review for the midterm. The midterm exam is going to simply be to add the 3 remaining content. So we've got defense in depth, confidentiality, and integrity. There are 3 more for you to add, so you're going to be adding the content, images, as well as adding to the footer down below. So good luck with the midterm exam and with that, and thank you for following along with this HTML CSS basic midterm review. Have a great day, everybody.